Welcome to Dropping Gems. We are kicking this series off. Now, I got the Raptors championship t-shirt on because I want to bring that Raptors energy to this career panel series. We got Hannah Yu for our first episode. Now, she is a certified music therapist with a master's of music therapy. She currently works as a music therapist at Sick Kids Hospital, Emily's House, Philip Aziz Center with focus in pediatrics and palliative care. She supports people in their journey of living and dying, enhancing quality of life and meaningful interactions. She also supports people living with chronic lung issues through a Singing to Breathe group in the Pulmonary Rehabilitation Clinic at Toronto Western Hospital. She is a proud board member with the Canadian Music Therapy Fund and chairing the Grants Committee and advocating for music therapy. Welcome to the first episode of Dropping Gems.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. First episode. Oof.
Yes. No pressure at all. We're very, very happy to have you. We talked about this a little bit before we started, but I guess what were you thinking of doing before this came into your view that you could be a music therapist? Like what were you trying to do before then? And then how did you kind of get put on that this was something you could do for a career?
Right. So, I know I said I wouldn't go into like my childhood situation, but my teenage years, there was like a lot of turmoil or just, typical teenage angst. And in that process or in that journey, like music is what really connected with me and what kind of like saved me. And so in the process of like applying for university, I was like, I know I want to help people through music. So I was going to become a music teacher. That's what I thought was going to happen. And so I went on these different interviews, like to get into music schools. And I gave them my whole spiel of like, I want to help people with music. And they're like, what about music therapy? And at the time, because that was like 2002, at the time, music therapy wasn't as prominent. And so at Wilfrid Laurier, they have a music therapy program. And so when I interviewed there, that they were the ones that sparked that. And I went home, I like looked it up. And when I read the description of what music therapy is, I was like, yes, that is why I'm put on this earth. Like, this is what I need to do. And so I actually crafted my education to get like a music degree and then a psych degree. And then I did my master's in music therapy. So that's sort of how I got there.
Okay. So when you, I don't know if you can answer this, but when you started in the industry, I guess 2002, when you were aspiring to become a music therapist, do you know what the field was like at that time compared to how it is now?
Yeah, so I think at the time, in 2002, I was in my undergrad. So I kind of still had no idea what was happening. And then once I got into my master's, which was in 2007, I really wish I wasn't dating myself right now, but that's okay. At that time, like the master's program and there were different programs all across, like all over the world, actually. In that time, there was only a master's program at Laurier, and now we have another master's program at Concordia University in Canada. And so, but at the time going into it, like I knew that there was some music therapy positions and jobs at like certain hospitals. So like there were certain ones in Toronto, because I'm Toronto based, that I knew of. And then I knew that there was like a private practice, but I still wasn't really sure. Once graduating, there was like a little bit more, I got a feel for what the field was, like being in like placements. But I feel like now people are so like savvy, like people are so entrepreneurial, like they go out there, they create their own positions, and people have been doing a lot of private practice work and creating their own stuff. But I feel like now we have a lot more resources and tools for people to just like really get their hands dirty and get into the areas that they want to get into. So I've had like really cool colleagues, and even for myself, like I've created most of the positions that I'm in now. So it's just about like finding the niche, finding that passion, like really wanting to serve those people, and then being like, let's do this.
Yeah, you saying that brings to my mind when I talked to Chrissy, and we were talking about that people actually probably have more opportunities to take advantage of music therapy than they realize, and that's kind of what you're saying. Like there are those things out, those positions, those opportunities, but
Yes.
people got to kind of be more aware that they exist. I want to talk about your education a little bit more. You said you ended up getting your master's. Did you think that your master's was necessary for you to kind of have a foot forward in your career, or you didn't? How did you feel about after your bachelor's? Did you feel prepared to go into it, or did you say I have to get my master's before I can really dive into this?
So for myself, because I got my bachelor's degrees in unrelated fields, like in music and then psychology, in order to practice music therapy in Canada, you have to have like a music therapy education, whether it be a
Oh,
bachelor's
okay.
or a master's degree. Yeah. So you have to have some form of a bachelor or a master's degree in music therapy. We're also certified. So that means that like we have like 1,000-hour internship, it's supervised, like there's a whole process. We have to pass a test, like an exam, and then like keep up with like continuing education credits and the whole shebang there. So so I think that's the journey of that piece. For myself in my particular journey, I didn't know about music therapy until after I was applying for university. So had I known, I probably would have just applied straight into music therapy in my bachelor's. But at the same time, for some of the positions that I hold, like they only hire people with masters of music therapy as opposed to bachelor, but there are many other opportunities that people can create if you have a bachelor of music therapy per se. But the most important part is to be a certified music therapist in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
That brings me to my next question, and we talked about this again before we hopped on, is the jobs that kind of surround music therapy, whether it be support staff, administrative staff. If there's someone who, may not be able to get the formal education,
Right.
but they still want to be a part of that industry, is there anything that they can do? Are there any jobs out there for those type of people?
I think like there's a difference with music therapy and then using music therapeutically. So for yourself, like I think like if you have like the best day, what is part of that, right? It's usually like, yes, I'm gonna put on my big tune, I'm gonna just like jam out. Or if you're having like the worst day ever, right? Like you turn on a song and you're just like, like, it just like adds
Something
to
to
it.
cry
Like,
to.
exactly. Music is so powerful and we connect to it. And I think everyone has then experienced or has been touched upon music in a therapeutic way. And so with music therapy, like we use music within a therapeutic relationship to address human needs with clinical goals. That's like my elevator pitch of what music therapy is.
Okay.
So for someone who may not be in the field, but is interested in kind of having a related position, like there's a lot of different things that use music therapeutically as well. So there's people that like maybe play piano, for example, or do sing-along groups or like a drumming circle. So being able to use music to bring people together. And there's different ways of doing that. There's also many ways to support music therapy, like in terms of volunteering or being able to ally with us. So to collaborate, like there's a lot of interdisciplinary staff that I work with that support music therapy in that way. So people who love music therapy but have different skill sets, it's like, well, let's collaborate and work together.
Yeah, I wanted you to give us a little crash course on music therapy in a second, so we're going to get to that.
Okay.
But I want to talk about the events that kind of been going on around music therapy. I know the fund has done some events like the one they did with Strombolopolis a couple weeks back, and they did some stuff with Stacked in the past. Talk about, I guess, those events and how those events just help the broader goal of bringing awareness about music therapy.
For sure. I think especially in times like this, where like, so we had a virtual music event called Song Session for the Frontline. And that was an online event. And we identified that what our frontline staff is going through right now. They're being impacted significantly with the pandemic. And not only just the frontline staff, but their family. Like some people are separated, like people can't live at home because, they have to be careful. And so we wanted to raise money to be able to provide music therapy for frontline staff and their families. So the Canadian Music Therapy Fund is a charity, a national charity. And so we also provide granting. And so an event like that, we were able to raise money, and now we're in the granting process. So music therapists are now applying for grants to then provide services to people with that are on the front line or affected by it, with the focus of mental health.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. The kind of crash course I'm looking for in music therapy is for someone who's never seen it in action, never even knew that it existed, and especially for the person who may have someone in their life who could really benefit from it.
Right.
How do you sell them on it, and how do you kind of get them to sign up for that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I think firstly, like like I said to you, like music is integrated into all of our lives, right? Best day, worst day, music. Any sort of big event, weddings, funerals, like celebrations, music is there. So I think first of all, we can identify how music affects us. And then like with music therapy, what I love about it is it's so vast. Like it can look so many different ways based on where you work or based on who needs it. So it can range from, you know, like I work in the hospital, for example, a children's hospital. And like I'm able to go to a setting where, and just allow kids to just be kids again. So if there's like a scary medical procedure, to be able to use music, we can play instruments or they can play out their feelings. Like, I feel really scared right now. And then we give them a drum and then you can just play it out, right? Like, or they might not be able to verbalize. We have a saying, it's like a famous music therapy quote of when words fail, music speaks. And like, I just love that, because how many times have I been like, or have I supported people that can't express what they're feeling, you know, and they might be like, I'm so upset about this, and this, but that's not actually what's happening. And as soon as we get into like music, so like there's a technique or an intervention we use called like improvising. So within improvising, you get to create your own music and you're just expressing yourself. And so often when we go into music therapy improvisation, people are just able to like express themselves, like play it out, and identify something else that's happening. So I think that's really relatable for people that may not think like, I don't need it, like I'm fine. But we all need that sort of like holistic care. So that's kind of like one element of being able to express yourself and tap into things that you want to work through. And then there's like working with children with autism, or working with a group of adults with complex care needs and providing socialization, or providing like palliative end of life care and those meaningful moments at end of life, which is also something else that I do. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about that, and it's like, I think that's very, very interesting. Because my mom works in a field with a lot of people who are dealing with that. So that's kind of what made me think of that a lot as well. But I want to hear that quote one more time, that famous quote you guys have. Please give that to me one more time.
When words fail, music speaks.
Oh, amazing. I that quote is so true, because there have been times even myself where a song will kind of explain or express all things I'm feeling, even if it's not the lyrics. Sometimes it is the lyrics, and you're thinking, this song was written 15 years ago. How could you know everything I'm going through? Or it could be, the chords of the song or the sound of the song, and it just brings out everything you're feeling. So I love that quote so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing that I really like about us bringing this to the forefront, especially, is because you're right, it is part of our everyday life, and especially the high points when there's an exciting moment or event, we make sure that music is there. In my family, I'm known for the guy who's always on the aux cable, always have the music.
That's
and
it.
me being there doesn't even have value as much anymore. It's more that I'm playing music for everybody else, and have people think of music in a therapeutic way, a way that it can actually help you. It's not just dressing for the event.
Yes.
I like that we can kind of help people think that way, because especially with my little brother as well. He's 15, so there's a lot of music he was not around for, and music has taken a turn in the past 5 years or so. So his type of music is very different. So a lot of the songs that he has said that he'll listen to when he's feeling a certain way, or when he wants to get in a certain mood, are songs that I've showed him rather than songs from the current time. So it feels good to know that he doesn't have to live that music to still have those
experience
effects.
It. Yeah. And I think that's it. Like, music is a way that connects us too. Like, you just named it. Like, it's not for your brother. Like, he won't know any of the music that played, back in the 90s or 70s or whatever music that connects us. But it connects us through generations, which is incredible. And something that like if I listen to I don't even know an example, but a Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, right? That is so relevant to what's happening right now. And how is that possible? We're in 2020. Exactly. And yet music has a way of especially there's a lot of conscious music and political music too that speaks to what's happening in a certain time. And then it can just it reflects where we're at in humanity, that we can relate to it right now as well.
No, it's exactly that. And on top of everything else, music is usually a time capsule. You know,
Yes.
whether it's a song that's about love and heartbreak, you know, there is kind of that, I guess, window of love and heartbreak that is more felt than as time passes. So music captures that time when the pain is the freshest or the love.
For sure. For sure.
I want to talk about the coronavirus. Of course, we can't act like that's not happening. But how did that affect your jobs when it first started? I know the restrictions have been, you know, loosened up a little bit since
Yeah.
a few months now. But when it first hit, what were the immediate changes to what you do?
So I will say, like, as you mentioned in the bio, I work in many different locations. So at Sick Kids Hospital, I'm one of 4 music therapists there. And at Sick Kids, we're considered essential service. So like, nothing changed. We still went in, we wear the full PPE. So I'm wearing like N95 mask with the goggles, gown and gloves, and I stroll in with my guitar and I'm just like singing through, and we're playing instruments, and everything is of course like sanitized, and we're very good with infection control and prevention. But even more so than ever because of COVID, visitors are restricted, and so a lot of the kids that are there, they're only allowed to have one caregiver with them. And if you think about what's happening with the pandemic, like, you know, if you have a family of 4, you know, and one of your kids is in the hospital, then 3 of your kids are at home. And like, you also have to work from home. So like, how are you supposed to manage? So often a lot of these kids are by themselves for periods of time as, like, you know, let's say mom and dad transition. And so with music therapy, we're there to support them. We're there to, you know, help them through whatever's happening, whether it be helping, like, using music to connect, you know, so like their favorite songs that they sing at home, and then we can sing them together, or we can FaceTime with their siblings to do music together, or just to process what's happening and provide like that comfort and support during a difficult time. So at Sick Kids, I'm still there, but full PPE, like the whole gamut. I look like an alien with a guitar.
Can imagine.
Yeah. And then my other workplaces, because just the way that it panned out, with residential hospice, for example, and obviously community visits, like I can't go into people's homes. So everything shut down. And so I've been working from home and been doing online sessions. And
Oh,
so I've been providing online music therapy sessions, which is so different. I don't know if you've ever tried to sing with someone over Zoom.
oh my
The
goodness.
latency,
I can
it's
imagine.
yeah. So there's a lot of like, you know, it's just we've adapted, and we've just changed how we work, and it's not perfect. It's not even close to being, you know, that, but it's a way to still stay connected, and I think that's what's important. So the pandemic has really affected a lot of the clients and the people that I work with, because they're already going through something, whatever their own medical issues are. And then add to that, you're now isolated, you've lost all your resources, you can't go anywhere, and they're very immunocompromised. So they are the population that we're trying to keep safe.
Mm-hmm.
So to not have anything, like just to have this interaction, whether it be a phone call or a video session, like that has been, the feedback I've gotten is that it's so meaningful to them to stay connected.
I can definitely imagine, especially in this isolated time. The thing I've noticed the most is, you know, this is a time everyone's consuming so much content on media, whereas movies, music, TV shows. You know, we already are kind of people that do that in the first place, but especially during this time, it's so much. But I do feel that music, more than any of the content we're consuming, has been the most helpful, because those, you know, that music, those songs, those albums that, you know, that you hold dear to your heart are things that you can listen to more often over and over again than a movie that you may like, or your favorite, you know, TV show. So I do see the value, especially during these times, when whether it's familiar music that's familiar or music that just has a healing quality to it. You know, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. And with the Canadian Music Therapy Funds, we have a music therapy center that's in Toronto, and they've been doing, like, they shifted online as well. And so they've been doing, offering like music therapy groups, or like online music therapy sessions, but also just like different types of music wellness groups, you know, of like a guided imagery in music, like music and relaxation. And so I think that's really cool. But like, we can recognize that the power of music and how music can help in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Singing to Breathe for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, when I saw that, that brought such a like a warm, feeling to my heart. Talk about how that group came together, and just how you guys do everything over
For
there.
sure. So the Singing to Breathe group is at the Pulmonary Rehabilitation Clinic at Toronto Western Hospital. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've had to stop because adults with respiratory issues are not to leave their homes or even get together in a group. But how it started was I started that group actually I know someone who has COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And so I met her singing in a singing workshop, and she coughs all the time. But with her singing and with how we sing, like we're taking in air and we're working our lungs. And so her singing has actually helped her with her lung issues. And so the director of the pulmonary rehab clinic I also identified that there's something to singing that could really help our patients. And so I started a music therapy group there, and it's like the group ranges from like 8 to 25 people at any given time. Like it's a drop-in. We meet once every 2 weeks, and we go through different breathing and vocal exercises, right? So it's like learning how to take deep breaths, doing different things to prepare our bodies with breath. And then we do different vocal exercises, your typical like mi, me, ma, mo, moo, right? The scales, but in connection to their breathing and their body. And then we sing and work together to create almost a choir. So our program is funded by a donation by a gentleman named Richard Mallow, who passed, and his family donated. And so the group wanted to call themselves the Mallow Tone Singers. And so we sing songs that are meaningful together, and then we perform them like twice a year, or we did twice a year, to bring awareness to music therapy, to bring awareness to different lung issues and advocacy to it. And like some of these, like I've had one lady who came, and I was like, oh, okay, like here's some song lyrics. Cause like we sing a whole range of songs. Like we do like Stand By Me, Lean on Me, but I made them learn like Bruno Mars' Count on Me.
Wow.
We did from The Greatest Showman, This Is Me. Like,
wow.
Just like meaningful songs to them.
Yeah.
And I had this woman who I was like, here's a, lyric sheet. She's like, no, I don't sing. I'm just here because I was told that there's exercises, but I don't sing. And I was like, okay, well, here's the words if you want to follow along. Nope, I don't need them. And I was like, okay, your presence here is meaningful. Like, thank you for just participating. And I respect your choice. But she kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And now she is the person that creates like folders for all the sheets. She's the one that asks and if she can record little bits so she can practice at home. And she is the first person to be front and center in our Mallow Tone Singers choir to like sing out. And it is just so incredible. And actually another person who's had issues. So she was really frustrated. Sorry, I'm rambling about this, but I just love this example.
Please go ahead.
She's really frustrated. There's something that we do where you inhale, and then on one note, like and in one exhale, you see how far you can get with the numbers, right? Just to see how long your exhale is. And so we would always do it, and she'd get so frustrated because she's like, I'm the first one out. Like I can't, like I don't have enough breath. And now, after like a year and a bit of her being in our group, she's the one we wait for to finish counting. And so she says like, it's improved how far I can walk. Like it's really affected and been applicable to other areas of her life, which is so cool.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I'd love to hear that. I could hear you tell those stories all Hey, we could delete everything else we did before. You could for the next half an hour.
Sounds good.
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. I'm almost done. I gotta ask you, what would you say is a typical day? Obviously pre-corona, but a typical day for a music therapist. And you can just choose one of the locations that you're at and what's a typical day there. But what would be a typical day for a music therapist?
Yeah, I think for a lot of music therapists, if you're working in a facility, like a hospital or a different like long-term care facility, it's usually like I walk in and we're usually part of the team. And so I'll check like the chart notes and my caseload list. So I have like names of people that have been referred to music therapy. So it's not like, for the places that I work, it's not like everybody receives it. It's identified through, like if there's a specific music therapy need, then they're referred to our service. So I'll check my caseload. I'll see what's happening with the kids, and then I'll like prioritize who needs to be seen. And then I have like a music therapy cart that has like my guitar. It has different instruments, like little drums and tambourines and like an ocean drum and xylophones or whatever is needed. And I just like stroll through the hallway with my music therapy cart and I visit the units, and then I'll have music therapy sessions at bedside.
That is so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love the idea of just you going around with your cart, just bringing music to all the rooms. No, that's amazing to hear. This one is actually the last one, and this might be the most important question out of all these. You talked about your love for music earlier and how music saved your life. What was that music that you were listening to that kind of inspired you, that you wanted to help people with music? Who was it? Was it a certain album, a certain artist, a group of artists? Like, who were those people that inspired you with their music?
So I am a total nerd, and I have like music spectrum is crazy. So I was like classically trained in piano.
Okay.
And so a lot of my expression like for music output was through playing the piano. And so the actual song that changed me or really helped me was a Chopin nocturne in E minor. So that's that part. But also at the time, like I was listening to a lot of like, I'm going to date myself now. But during the time I was really big into like kind of conscious, what they would call like conscious hip hop from like the 90s. So there was a lot of like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, like I was really big into Black Star, like Delva Funky Homo Sapien. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're definitely dating yourself. There's someone who's gonna watch us and be like, I don't know.
Right? I don't know what anyone. Okay, so maybe Common. I feel like Common is still a thread.
Yeah, Common Sense.
But a lot of like there was different like hip hop groups. I think hip hop was a big connecting point for me. So I'll just say like 90s hip hop.
Okay.
And like 2000s hip hop. But as I think like being kind of the music therapist, like I did listen to a lot of music that changed me, but I think a lot of it was then being able to find a way to express myself by creating my own music. And so that was kind of playing it out. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. This has been an amazing way to kick the series off. No pressure to everyone who's coming up next. Hannah definitely did her thing, dropped a whole bunch of gems, a whole bunch of knowledge. Let the people know if they want to support music therapy, the Canadian Music Therapy Fund, where can they go? What can they do?
Absolutely. So please follow us, Canadian Music Therapy Fund. I'm one of the board members. I'm so proud of this organization and have been like so pumped to be a part of it. So you can follow us on all our socials. So we're Canadian Music Therapy Fund. You can look that up. And then we have a website, and right now we're in our granting process. So the grant applications opened up for July 3rd, closes August 4th. For any music therapist who wants to apply to provide free music therapy sessions for frontline staff. And we've got some really cool like events coming up that's like we're in the works. So like keep your eyes out on our socials to find that out. And also I want to plug Music Therapy Center, which is part of the Canadian Music Therapy Fund. So many words, but they're doing awesome things to like provide music therapy services in our like community in Toronto and abroad. So please support us, hit donate if you're able to.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for dropping by. Until next time, stay safe.
Thank you.